Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts. Please be sure to listen to our important message following this episode regarding the risks of investing in exchange-traded options.
Welcome, everyone. This is Steve Meisinger, your host for the ISE webinar series. Welcome back to another ISE webinar. Today we have Raghee Horner with us, and Raghee is an author. She's a Forex trader, and she's working on her third book, soon to be released, I guess sometime later this year. Raghee will be talking about navigating the Forex markets using ISE FX options. Raghee's been with us numerous times. She always does a wonderful job. We hear so many great comments from all the attendees. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for attending today, and I'm really looking forward to Raghee's presentation. Raghee, thanks again.
Thank you for having me. I'm always so excited to talk about options. I don't get this opportunity often enough, so thank you. Thank you for everyone for coming.
Well, it's definitely our pleasure at the ISE. Let me give you the ball so that you can drive the slides. And without further ado, Raghee Horner will start the presentation. Thanks, Raghee.
Thank you. Well, first of all, everybody, thanks for coming. And, when it comes to options, what I like to do here, and I'm sure a lot of you might be fairly sophisticated with your options trading and have a lot of great strategies, and that's fantastic. What I like to do is kind of slow it down a notch. And that's not to say simply that we're going to do beginner strategies. That's not necessarily what I'm getting at. What I want to do here, and let me get my my desktop shared here. Just bear with me a moment. I have a multiple screen setup, so this is always the hairy part. Okay. Just bear with me a moment here. I think we're good.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you. You see the one panel there?
Yep. I see the chart of UI, and we also have the ISE website on the bottom. That's great.
Great. Thank you, Steve. And gang, one of the things I want to mention about the ISE website is whether you're going back for webinar archives or whether you're just using it as a resource. Uh-oh. You know what, Steve, my system just froze up on my end. You still there?
Yes.
Okay, I just tried to resize the window and it froze up. Gang, if you would bear with me just a moment, I apologize.
Fine. That's fine.
So
why don't you work on that, and I'll just talk about, at the ISE website, as Raghee said, we have a lot of tools trying to always build things that traders really want. So if you look at the bottom pane there, you'll see that there's a chart with the price of EUI, the implied volatility, not only the implied volatility, but the historic volatility. So the historic volatility sort of tells you what the volatility of the pair has been over, I think it's 30 days. And the implied volatility sort of tells you what the market's expecting tomorrow, if you will. It's just the reverse engineering of the last options price. So we sort of give you a clue on, and you see that those numbers are pretty much, they've converged to be about the same. They're not always that way, but the implied volatility tells you how much the market is expecting the pair to move in a year. So right now we're looking at about an 18% prediction. And Raghee will be talking, she has the top pane where she'll be showing you the support and resistance for the basic chart of EUI. She's just trying to get her system back, so I'm just sort of filling in here until she gets her screen back. The top pane you see that price chart of EUI, and that's the dollar against the euro. So we see sort of that moving average. It went down to that moving average at the end of, or in the mid of December. And if you traded against that and bought the dollar at that point, you did pretty well, as it bounced from about 69 all the way up to 80. So how could you have benefited from that? Well, if you had the forecast that you thought the dollar was going to rally based on that moving average, well, you could have bought a call. So you could have bought, let's say, a 72 call, 74 call, maybe even a 75 or a 76 call. as the dollar euro went all the way up to 80. Now, what time frame? Well, that's another great question. But normally, you're going to select the time frame that you think is best for you. You want to give yourself enough time. So what I like to remind investors is you probably want to give yourself a little more time than you think you need. Oh, looks like Raghee's coming back as I see. Raghee, are you there?
I sure am. I think I'm just about back here. And thanks for filling in. And gang, what was Steve was? Did you want to finish your thought there, Steve?
Yeah, no, just talking. I basically was talking about the chart that you had up. I talked a little bit about the volatility, and then I went back and talked about the price action over the last 3 months because you had EUI up on the chart. So I talked a little bit about, if you had bought some calls along that period, you probably would have done pretty well. But I'm not sure where your presentation is going, but I was just sort of commenting on the chart there.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I'm so glad that you brought up is the chart. And just as soon as I get back in here, as far as you guys can see my screen, let me get the chat window back up. Actually, you can see the screen
all we can see right now. Oops, you know what, Raghee? Unfortunately, you are not. You're going to need to log back in because I don't see you at all there.
No problem. I'll fix that up just in a moment.
All right, and what I'm going to do is just go through the slides because I think we have a couple of slides, and then we'll get started. I'll do that for 2-3 minutes, and then just jump right back in. Okay?
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks. All right. So, in trading options, you want to understand that you need to understand sort of the rules of the game. You can go to 1-888 options and get a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Options, of course, are not for everyone, but I think that options are great. But I've been trading options for almost 3 decades now, so you need to understand the risk of options. That is the most important thing there. So you can trade these options directly through your equity options broker, and the symbols are all right there, so you can see the Australian dollar, British pound, Canadian dollar, euro, Swiss franc, Japanese yen. You see that the U.S. dollar is the base currency. They're exchange listed. They're settled in U.S. dollars. You can trade spreads. And I'd urge you to come to www.ise.com/FX. Let's just go back until Raghee comes back. And let me just talk about the idea of, how would you trade these? And again, I could spend days talking about option strategies. But if you're bullish on the dollar, you can take the dollar as the base currency. Well, you're going to be looking at probably calls, buying calls, call spreads, something like that. And if you were bearish on the U.S. dollar, you'd be looking at puts or put spreads. And sometimes it's just best to keep it simple. I'd urge all of you to go back to the archives where we have about 100 different presentations, all archived. You could also sign up for the podcast, www.ise.com/podcast. And also, I've written almost a dozen articles on what's going on in the FX market. Also, if you really wanted to contact me, there at Ask the Experts, so you can go to www.ise.com/FX. I'm getting a question from Carlos. We're still waiting for Raghee to phone in. Once she does, we'll be good to go. What's a put spread? Well, a put spread is going to be buying one option and selling another option. So it's a simultaneous trade. When I'm buying one and selling another. And for some of us, it may make a lot of sense that you do these limited risk. Also, you're capping your gains, though. So you want to understand the risk reward of all your trades.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. To find more podcasts on options, stocks, alternative markets, and market data, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts.